As a volunteer firefighter, I've been to a number of fires where unfortunately civilians have died. I've never been to a working fire, though, where a fellow firefighter, has died. Once, however, we came as close as you can to losing one of your own. It was a house fire where two members were operating on the first floor. There was a raging basement fire underneath them. Without warning, the floor collapsed and plunged them into the well-involved cellar below. The firefighter who first saw that happen started screaming, "They're burning up, they're burning up." That set off a frantic rescue effort that, thank God, worked. But in the 5 minutes or so it took to remove them from the basement, I was sure we were going to their funerals. It was that close. The main reason those two firefighters survived is because another firefighter made an incredibly gutsy move to get into that basement. He brought a hand line down and darkened down the fire. Then he located them and assisted other firefighters in removing them from the basement. Later on, I had a chance to talk to that firefighter, who happens to be a good friend, about the incident. He, in the most unassuming way, told me that he couldn't live with himself if he didn't get those guys out of there. He was either going to get them out of there or die trying. My friend is one of the best firefighters I've ever seen. He is daringly heroic and also incredibly intelligent. In fact, at fires, when I think he might be mistaken about something, making the wrong move or sizing it up wrong, I always defer to his judgment, and it turns out he's always right. Because of who he is, because of his character, I would follow that man into any fire. I would trust him with my life, and I have, because I know that he will never leave me, even if it costs him his life. So, how can a loving God allow suffering? I don't know. No one knows. No one can explain why God would allow a little child to die of cancer, or would allow a tsunami to wipe out thousands of people in mere minutes, or allow a maniacal dictator to send millions of people to their deaths. We simply don't know why. But we do know God. If Jesus is God, as long as he's God, and the evidence makes the odds pretty overwhelming he is, we know God's heart, his character. The God revealed in Jesus is therefore supremely trustworthy. We may not be able to understand his ways or comprehend his plans, but we can always, always trust his heart. The story is so familiar to us that we usually miss how utterly astounding it is. In Jesus, God has become human, taken on human flesh. Jesus, as God, only knew never-ending joy, unlimited power, as a member of the Trinity, infinite expanse upon infinite expanse of perfect love. But he gave all that up for us. He gave up all his divine prerogatives, emptied himself of all his divine prerogatives for us. He chose to become a human being, to get sick, to feel hunger, to know exhaustion, to experience loneliness and abandonment and betrayal, to even feel sorrow and grief over the loss of a loved one. He did all that for us. He became completely vulnerable to all the things we go through and more. Then, incredibly, he died for us, and in the most extreme way. Mel Gibson's movie, The Passion, depicts the bloody horror of the cross. It's hard to watch. But in reality, crucifixion was much worse. They even had to invent a new word to describe the unique form of torture crucifixion was back then. The word is excruciating. But for Jesus, that wasn't the worst part. The physical pain wasn't the worst part. It was the fact that to save us, he had to bear the weight of our sin on that cross. In other words, he had to bear the weight of all the pain and suffering our sin causes throughout all the ages. The infinite sacrifice God has made to become human is utterly mind-blowing. The enormity of Jesus' suffering on that cross is utterly incomprehensible. It's the furthest extent to which God's love can go for us. As Jesus himself said, there is no greater love than this, that someone should lay down their life for their friends. So is suffering proof that a loving God doesn't exist? Not in the shadow of the cross. Even in the face of incomprehensible suffering, the incomprehensible suffering he endured on the cross for us proves once and for all that he loves us. In that moment, on that cross, God proved the depth and extent of his love, so that no matter what we go through, no matter what we suffer, no matter how perplexing it is, any God who would do that for us, who would experience that kind of excruciating death for us, we know has to be supremely loving. Through all eternity, that is his true character. My friend is eminently trustworthy because he would lay down his life for a fellow firefighter. How much more then is Jesus trustworthy, who has laid down his life for us? There's nothing more God could do to prove his love for us. Absolutely nothing. So while we can never know why we suffer in this life, we don't have to. In Jesus, we can know God, and that's exceedingly better. Suffering may torment in this life, but the one thing it can't do is take away the fact that we have a loving God. So, whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, you can know that God loves you. Jesus gave up the glory of heaven for you. He died for you. He made the ultimate sacrifice for you. There truly is no greater love. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please go and like the Raising Jesus Facebook page, and we will keep you updated on new blogs, videos, and announcements. Thank you very much.